Good afternoon. We'll call the meeting to order. It's 4:02 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to approve the agenda or the consent agenda, which is to approve the agenda and the minutes from the November 14th and November 21st special meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let me just pause for a moment. Is Kevin Nelson with us on Zoom? Do we know?
He is not. We're still at 2 participants, so.
Okay. Just in case someone sees him, I want to be able to recognize him when he arrives, or if he's able to arrive. I know he's traveling. Great. So next item is citizens' comments. Are there any citizens to be heard? Any citizens to be heard today? Hearing none, we'll move on to the finance report.
All right, so we provided for you the statement of financial position as of November 30th and the profit and loss from our statement of activity from, let's see, and get to the right page. Yep, from January through November 2022. So everything has pretty much been completed with Gill Power Bell and their consulting services on cleaning up the Redevelopment Authority's QuickBooks. So everything does appear to be about as accurate as it could be, given that there is a lot of older journal entries from many, many years back still in the QuickBooks, but we tried to reconcile as many of those as we could and put some kind of direction toward what those are. So everything is, like I said, pretty cleaned up and straightforward. If there's any questions, I will certainly try to get you an answer or have April get back with you.
Nice to see some larger numbers than earlier in the year. Probably had to buy a new calculator to get all,
Yeah.
Are there any highlights that you wanted to point out, Mr. Stimpert? Or
Nothing that has really changed. I just really wanted to point out, as we look at the budget on page 6, currently our payroll expenses year to date is $375,059. Looking at our payroll and our salary projections for next year, being that the proposed operating budget is $550. That's going to include potentially 2 more positions. So just to kind of see and look at where we are. We're really at 721,000 total, which is in comparison to 375 for the year. But that's probably about it.
So I see relocation line item about 35,000.
What page are you on?
Oh, sorry. Statement of activity, page 1.
Okay.
Who is being relocated?
That is our relocation activities for our lead hazard control program.
Got it.
So those are our occupants of abatement projects that have to be relocated to hotels.
Got it. Okay. So the really bad line.
Yep. So that covers hotel accommodations and a daily per diem stipend for them being out of their property.
Thank you.
and I don't know, maybe going forward for next year, if we can add another column that could compare the current period to the same period of the previous 12 months or something, so we have a little bit of a comparison to judge. I know it's going to be different because we were taking on more programs, but
yeah, absolutely. We can work on getting that comparison so that the board has that to compare against.
Yeah. So maybe
where
starting
we are.
the first quarter next year, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
When you're just looking at a set of numbers, it doesn't mean it's not as meaningful as something that's changed or moved.
Okay.
but we appreciate just getting everything else caught up on the accounting software. I know that's not an easy task. Any other questions on any of the operational? Hearing no further questions, is there a motion to accept the financial report as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. All right. Oops, I was getting too efficient here. Next is our 2023 operational budget.
All right, so in front of you is the proposed 2023 operating budget for your review and approval. Nothing has changed since our study session. What, last week? No, week before last. So really I feel pretty confident, in the numbers that we provided. I know certainly, following the study session, we have some things that I need to work on with the city and some of the other programs to try to get some better answers moving forward. I know I received this morning on my desk the city CDBG applications for our requests for next year, so certainly sooner than later, I need to get some answers as far as administrative costs and things like that is on CDBG's side, but with our current contracts and the sources and uses, I feel that, this is a pretty accurate budget and something that we can utilize and work on for 2023.
Okay. I think at our study session, we talked about maybe having just a communication to the mayor's office as to where we're at, where we'd like to go. I happened to run into the mayor after our study session at a social event and let him know that we would be in contact, probably through Renee, is probably the right. He had a global understanding about where we're coming from. I wouldn't expect him to understand the details, of course, at his position, but I think reaching out to Renee and maybe let her know what our thoughts are and going forward can't hurt.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree.
All right, and this includes raises for all the board members, right?
Yeah, yep, 5%.
Offshore annual meeting.
5% of zero, I guess. Oh, boy.
Yes.
It sounds like some people around here thought those sorts of things were okay.
Funny.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
As presented.
Indeed. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect, thank you so much. Sorry about the humor. I'm trying to emulate Mr. Alberstadt, and I'm struggling here, so I'm not quite smooth yet.
We'll help you get off stage.
All right, on to our property reports.
All right, so in front of you is the property report for October through November 2022. November 21st, we filed condemnation on 11 properties. That is 11 of the 15 that the board had previously approved. As with a lot of these properties, as they work through, a lot of times some fall off. So we did have 4 fall off, but we did file condemnation on 11 of those. We sold 1 property as a side lot for $500. All of that funding will go back to the city to reimburse the CDBG funds that were utilized to acquire that property. Commercial facade program, currently the authority doesn't even have an open contract for the commercial facade, so that's just kind of outlining on there because of the property report and the way it's set up. As far as blighted properties, the committee met in October, November, blighted 12 properties, rescinded 5. Currently, there's 201 properties on the list and with active blight declarations. 67 of those, however, are under some level of intervention by the Redevelopment Authority. So when we look at that list, and that's something that Mindy has been working with code enforcement on, since really November, to try to get some increase in that list as we look to aggressively mitigate blight with the ARPA funds and the East Bayfront Greenway Trail project. When you look at 201, you take 67 we already have control over, plus you take off another 30-35% for occupied properties that people are living in. I mean, it doesn't really leave us very many, so we want to try to get and work with code enforcement to increase that level and identify a lot of those vacant and abandoned properties across the city neighborhoods. So But that's the property report for your approval and acceptance of the resolution.
Report's been presented, resolution's attached. Is there a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. All right, rehabilitation report. So we continue to move through the lead hazard control program, working with HUD on that, where we're going to look into January here about getting some of our benchmarks revised, hoping that HUD provides some guidance as far as how they want their programs to move forward, given the issues many grantees are having with production issues, contractor delays, contractor availability. So we're just kind of waiting on some guidance from HUD so that we can provide them some updates. I know about 6 months ago, they informed us that they were going to start evaluating our programs as they have done in the past and provide a quarterly evaluation. I know it might have been almost 9 months ago, I'd have to look, but we have not received one yet. They have not done a quarterly evaluation, so they've just continued to keep everybody in the green because they're well aware of the current situation of probably the majority of their grantees. So, but they're supposed to have some guidance to us, and we'll get that work with that and make the adjustments as we can in January to get the grant, and keep it as current as possible. The ARP and Healthy Homes program is moving forward. We have 10 projects in process, 20 applications, which really we have far more applications than that, right, Holly? Yeah. So. We have 14 under contract and 4 projects have been completed. We have been reaching out to contractors to try to increase our capacity on the contractor side. The Healthy Homes it is led in Healthy Homes, but we've been fortunate that we can move a lot of our clients into our lead hazard control program if they qualify, and we're utilizing the Healthy Homes program more for those interventions that wouldn't necessarily require lead abatement, which that allows us to attract additional contractors that don't have to carry that state lead abatement certification, that only have to have that EPA RRP certification. So we can utilize it. We can take these clients, we can generate a scope, and then attract these contractors, send them bids, and then award them projects. So it worked probably back, I think it was about 2017. We had a Keystone grant from our West Bayfront. We utilized that to bring in some contractors, which was a tremendous benefit. So we're kind of utilizing it now here through December and into the early part of next year, while contractors are looking for spring work to push a lot of stuff out. So hopefully we'll be able to. I know we met with a contractor a couple weeks ago. He seemed very interested. We've started to send him bids. We have a couple more that have already been on some stuff, and we're getting under contract. So it's hopefully looking promising that some of the private market is drying up, but our federally funded projects are still well funded. So hopefully we'll be able to attract some people that way.
Aaron, just tying this in, I didn't realize so many of the blighted properties were occupied, or that any number of the blighted. Are some of those salvageable? And if they are, have we made any particular effort to let them know about our new ARP rehab and so on programs?
Yeah, and it does happen. A lot of times, as most of the properties, they're vacant when we blight them. However, that doesn't stop a property owner from selling it or conveying it to somebody who wants to take up occupancy in it, which is typically what happens. We do have people in our programs who live in blighted properties, so they're aware of the program, and so we will work with them, and we have worked with people who are residing in a blighted property to utilize our funds to rehabilitate them.
But they have to find out about it?
Yeah,
everybody else, we don't send them a letter.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
Before we knock your place down, and
yeah, because
Tony Sunberg comes knocking.
It's a fine line. We want blighted property owner to provide us a plan for the property, and so we don't want to kind of construe the two different. We'll work with them if they reach out to us, but we're not going to solicit to them. Because we're not. We try to solicit. If we tried to solicit to every homeowner, which would be equitable, we just couldn't financially afford that. So.
Also, they can come to us when they're blighted, but not once they're condemned, which has happened a few times.
Yes.
That makes
advice
sense.
They were given. So if any resident should ever ask, once they're condemned, I can't process them.
Okay.
City CDBG, we're still processing through there. County CDBG, we're trying to finish up some projects, get some final numbers to the county so that they can look at their budgets for next year, each of the jurisdictions, and determine what kind of funding we can continue to have next year. Act 137 is still going good. We're still looking for people to process there and get the applications going. Yeah, I think I covered everything. So I'll leave it at that. Any questions?
Housing Authority of the City of Erie, lead hazard control. Is this public housing, or are there properties where residents have housing choice vouchers that are essentially requesting that?
It is their public housing units, primarily their Harbor Homes complex over off of Buffalo Road and Downey. So they had identified a child with an elevated blood lead level several years ago. They applied for a grant through HUD. They were awarded it. So we have since tested the number. It's probably well over 200 of the units since then, and then we're working through. The remediation is minimal. It's mostly a door, maybe a piece of trim. There's a couple walls here and there, but it is 100% abatement. And the mitigation, is underway at this point on I think 40 some units at this time for the rest of that project.
Wonderful.
So,
thank you.
Yeah. Now the housing choice vouchers, any of those projects are run through the lead hazard control program. So we work with them, City Housing Authority and the County Housing Authority, whenever they have an elevated blood lead level child, and we work with the landlord to try to get the property remediated through that program.
Aaron, I saw a public announcement that the City of Erie was advertising for public comments on a new funding stream. I was trying to look it up. I don't remember the name of it, but the comments were due last Friday. And I'm wondering if the authority submitted any comments or...
No, I'm not even aware of which one you're talking about. I know there was the homelessness program they had the public comment on.
It wasn't ESG or home, it was... might have been.
The one that was, there was the program last Tuesday about it?
No, that's the state home repair program that the application's open today and closed sometime in January, but the county has to be the applicant for that.
Yeah.
Oh, right, that one.
I'll send you when I get to my computer. I'll see if I can send you it. It came kind of late into my mailbox, and I'm not sure if there's anything the authority wants to comment on or not. But it was a public comment period, and I'm not remember the name of the grant.
Yeah, I'm trying to Google it now.
But the public comment period closed on Friday, so I'm not sure if it's too late or not. But
yeah, if you could send it to me, I'll look into it. At least talk to Deb and her team.
Yeah. So, if you had something, a strong opinion about something, I'm sure we could probably find a way to communicate that to the
Absolutely.
city.
It was the home ARP allocation plan.
Thank you. Good.
Okay.
City of Erie News.
Yeah, so we just kind of take a peek at that and see if there's anything that this body wants to comment on. I think it's pretty important.
All right.
All right, Attorney Sundberg.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing?
Good.
Great to be here. Again, it's a month later, and we're still waiting for the Commonwealth Court to return a couple of things so that we can move them forward on both the Downing Street property and 615 Parade Street. The appeals have been denied, but we're waiting. We're waiting for the docket to come back to Erie County. Watford, we're just sitting. He has not filed anything with regard to Commonwealth Court, so we're waiting for that to get kicked back and a decision so that we can take that to the valuation stage. So on those three. So the next one is with regard to the 24 properties that previously condemned. The valuation hearings are set in front of Judge Brabender on January 17th, 2023. Of those, only one person who is in prison in Mercer has requested to attend. So that won't take long. But we'll let him, and we'll let him, I don't know what he's gonna say. He hasn't filed anything. So, nor is he, we haven't received an appraisal to refute our zero valuation, so, but we're gonna see how that goes. Number 3, we have filed the declaration of taking. It says 12 properties. It's 11. There was one that came off late. Is that right, Aaron? Yeah. Thank you. So there was 11 properties. We filed the complaint for taking. We're waiting on confirmed service, and then hopefully the vast majority of them we've been able to effectuate service through the sheriff's office. If we need to have a few that are served by publication, we'll work through that. And then once we have everybody served, then again, we'll wait that time frame, get the evaluation hearings, and get those off and running as well. Again, it's important for this board to see everything that we're doing, and I cannot, again, thank Aaron and Mindy enough and the whole office enough for helping us get these ready and to closings. So tried to provide you with a list there. Some of them are taking a little bit of time. I know that City Council is meeting this week. Is that correct? Because
For the resolutions,
Yeah,
those
for-
was last Wednesday.
Was it last?
We got the,
I just sent them over to your
Yeah.
office this morning.
okay,
so we
good.
got the 2 resolutions there were some city liens on 2 properties that we had to have.
Had to get removed, and
City
The
council
school board
approved
meets
the
on Wednesday.
exoneration.
that's what Marcia was talking about, was the school board. I'm sorry, the school board meets on Wednesday
Yep.
for that resolution. Then we've cleared everything up for those that have taken a little bit of time. And what we're continuing to get together, and I think we're getting together even tomorrow, to help facilitate the transition and the timing of these, so that we can keep these moving in a progressive fashion and making sure we're crossing off all the issues to keep these moving, and to get these into the purchaser's hands and back on the tax rolls. So that's kind of the overview of what we've been doing for the past 3 days. It's a beautiful thing. Really, the frustrating thing is about the first 3 properties. You don't know whether to how often to reach out to the Commonwealth Court and go, are you gonna kick this back to the trial court, and you don't want to be the squeaky wheel that results in your stack getting pushed under the bottom, but because I'd like to tidy those up. It seems like that those 3 have been on our agenda for a very long time.
Year and a half.
It's been a year and a half.
I don't think we've ever had property tied up that long.
Yeah, time flies when you're on appeal.
Yeah, getting the courts to.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. It's kick the record back. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. But we can't get them to do it. So we're working on it. So if there's any questions, by all means, let me know. But we'll keep cooking. Okay.
It's, real estate, as we know, is a marathon and not a sprint, so we appreciate you.
Right.
But this authority sprints marathons.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
At least we can make it a walk.
The bar has just been raised. Thank you. Any questions for Attorney Sundberg? Hearing none. Aaron, do you have any general updates or information?
The only general update is in your packet should be a flyer. We're well underway. We've signed the contract with Michael Baker International for the East Bayfront Greenway Trail project. So they have begun to put together their timeline for that project. So they certainly want to get moving. Sending out emails for the steering committee, which Aaron Carey sits on the steering committee for the city of Erie. My thought was, Ethan, if you were acceptable to it, I would like to include you on that if you're available for the steering committee as part of the Redevelopment Authority Board.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that. So that is, and so next Tuesday and Wednesday, they will be in town for a variety of different events and times. The steering committee meets on Thursday at 10:30, I believe. There'll be a Zoom link available for it if you couldn't attend in person, but that email will go out later this evening.
This Thursday or
Next Thursday, the 21st.
Perfect.
Wednesday the 21st.
Wednesday, the 21st.
10.
Okay, Wednesday, the 21st.
I'm going to hold it now, so I don't lose
Awesome.
that to a meeting.
But, so they'll be in town, they'll be doing a couple design charrettes over in the East Bayfront area. They're going to do a tour of the area, talk to different stakeholders, and start to be able to put together some of the plan for that project. So certainly, provide the flyer if board members were wanting to attend any of those public events. Certainly, they're open to the public. You're welcome to attend, or any of the other meetings as well. So,
And remind me the geographical area that was
6th to 12th parade to the Bayfront. Parade to Wayne, but Bayfront's right there too. So. And that kind of goes along with attorneys with Serve Erie have reached out since they have basically stepped back in their role in that area. They have some properties, a lot of which they have acquired from us. So I'm going to look at those properties and where they may fit into the East Bayfront Greenway Trail project. I know there's several of them that are right next to properties we currently acquired or recently have acquired. So, it probably will be a good fit for the authority to pull a lot of those properties back. Two of them are a park that was built by Serve Erie, so it's certainly already a neighborhood asset and something that we could pull into that trail project and expand upon. So, but I'll get those pulled up and get that to the board probably in January for approval to accept those.
And there's no neighborhood association really, because it's south of Best, it's north of
Yeah, it's north of Snoop, so
Snoops,
it's kind of it's a gray area as far as that goes, and that's where Serve Erie kind of tried to
I see.
fit. But since with the change in leadership and
Yeah.
direction, they are taking a step back from that, going more back toward their volunteering.
And is this a neighborhood where a number of new Americans might reside? Is it kind of sort of
I think there were 10 languages spoken when they did the survey in 2018, so it's a diverse community for sure.
So outreach to, I'm old, I forget all the names of the organizations. It's the Multicultural Center, so
Yeah. MCRC.
Thank you,
Yep.
thank you for keeping
Yeah.
me current. Okay, good, and that's already been contemplated?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yeah, absolutely. So that's all I have for today.
Okay, excellent. On to unfinished business and new business.
All right, property management software. So as you guys know, we manage the blighted properties for the city of Erie. So, the 201 properties currently on the list, along with all of the other properties that we currently own and have to keep track of, and everything else that will be coming on. So I guess with that, I will, hand it over to Mindy to talk about really her issues with and where she could feel that this would play into her position.
Yeah, so it's become evident that we need some kind of system that keeps all of these properties in one place where we can consistently keep track of what's going on with each property. Right now I have probably 10 to 12 different Excel spreadsheets to track everything because, we're tracking sales agreements, vacant land that we're taking care of, demolitions, rehabilitations, the blighted property list, and even all of those have different facets to them that as far as things that have to be taken care of. So, and as we keep adding more and more properties to all of this, I'm finding that things are falling through the cracks. And then with this too, with what we're doing, there's a lot of times that we need to be, not a lot of times, every time we need to be documenting what conversations we're having with property owners, with tenants, with people that just bought the properties. And a couple of times now I found that we had conversations that didn't get documented, but we know that we had the conversation. But then it sets us back to the starting point again as far as what was going on with the property. So with that said, I started interviewing a couple different software companies to see what was out there, what was available, what they looked like. Cuyahoga Land Bank is the one that I would prefer to go with if that is an option. So it was built by a land bank for a land bank. So it's very fluid. Anything that we needed to add or change, we can do different kinds of systems, but all of the basics are already there because they've been doing this. They're a very large land bank. They're doing the same kinds of things as far as doing demolitions and rehabilitations and vacant land sales and sales of houses or properties with houses on them. So all of the other companies I interviewed had very similar systems. This one just seemed to fit best for what our needs were and what we need to be tracking. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, no, my thought is that the cost would be shared between the redevelopment authority and the land bank, given that, we manage all of those properties and the ability to have them on one system where we could just really by the click have them separated between who is controlling those properties. And a lot of times, as you're aware, the land bank requests the authority to acquire properties via condemnation, so of course those properties sit in the redevelopment authority for a period of time until we finally clear them, and then they'll get transferred over to the land bank. So that just kind of move through. So it just seems like the right fit to kind of have the cost shared between the two organizations. So that we would, and next week we'll present this to the Erie Land Bank Board as well to get their, opinion on this. So of the systems that Mindy, brought for us to look at, really the city's in the process of getting all of their new software and technology up and running. So, the Ptolemy, was a great software and it was amazing and wonderful, but I think really what the city's gonna have here in the near future is really what they're gonna have. We just need something that will allow Mindy to keep track of that, so we don't have a property that filed condemnation on that we told the owner. So it happens, but oops. Yeah, that was it. I had the conversation with them. I went back to the office and forgot to put a piece of paper in the file, and 4 months later, it wasn't in the file. Mindy didn't see it, so we're trying to clear up those little bit of things. As things start to move, we're moving a lot more properties than we have moved in many, many, many years. So, we filed condemnation on, I think, 50 properties this year. So, in years past, we were, in the last 3 years, with the land bank and the funding from the Erie County Land Bank, we filed condemnation on, I think, 20 properties each year. So we're certainly ramping that up. But prior to the land bank, it was 6 to 10 properties a year. So we're getting aggressive, but we need a software that'll help us manage that.
So you have a spreadsheet here for our consideration.
Yes.
It's just the spreadsheet, I broke down the cost, the number of users, because that's a big deal too. A lot of them charge for extra users, and then what the annual prices are, and if they had a built-in price increase. So
the Cuyahoga is $20,000 startup, which is for them to basically take their system, build it to fit our needs of what we want, and then once they get that all done and it is ready to go, then they will charge us $5,000. That'll be our yearly renewal anniversary date, and then every year after that, it'll be $5,000 for that software.
Is this in the 2023 budget we already approved?
Yes.
Guess we don't need to vote on it.
So, face value, the Cuyahoga system seems much better from a value perspective. As a land bank, do they have like developers on staff that could help with the back end support if something did happen? Like you entered the same property twice and it just like blew up the system, or
They
not
do.
speaking from experience or anything.
Yes, they do. I think the only negative to Cuyahoga Land Bank is that it's from the Cuyahoga Land Bank, and again, they've been around a long time. They're a very big land bank, but the question comes into play, and I asked them, and I mean, they don't have a good answer, is what if you aren't a land bank anymore? What happens to the system? That's I think the only negative that I found. But I mean, that could be said for any of a company could go under at any given time.
I think they support two or three site developers or people, IT people specifically for this system. I
Yeah.
can't remember how many they said.
They're already serving multiple other land banks
Yeah.
with this software too, so.
He's told us how many, but I can't remember.
I think it was 8. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all starting to run together.
And I don't know the Cuyahoga Land Bank, but they're reputable and they
Yes,
so on.
yes, and they're big, they're doing a lot of work.
So an opportunity for us to step up and use their best practices.
Yes,
And
yes, so-
bring our, policies, procedures, files at their level then.
Yep.
Because it sounds like they're a tried and true older organization, and maybe step up the game a bit.
Mhm.
Is that, am I interpreting this correctly?
Yes, yes, and their software was very impressive. Again, I liked the fluidity of it, being able to change things to meet our needs here and what we're paying attention to. eProperty Plus is probably the prettiest software system, but I also talked to other authorities and land banks that were using both of these. I didn't talk to anybody that was using Ptolemy because they were much bigger than what we needed.
Yeah.
But I talked to other people that were using Cuyahoga and eProperty Plus, and everybody said eProperty Plus was really nice, but they don't use a lot of the systems in it. And so that was kind of the big complaint, and the cost of eProperty Plus were the two big complaints about it. So it is definitely the prettier of the two, but again, the Cuyahoga Land Bank I feel is more appropriate for what our needs are, and being able to make adjustments to it is nice.
So the authority of the land bank will share the software, and share the cost. Is it equal cost or prorated based on volume, or that's what really?
Right, I was figuring 50-50 split of the property, of the
Who's got
cost
more
of it,
money?
so.
At the moment,
At the moment, yeah.
All right. Just,
I mean, it's certainly something, the blight mitigation ARPA program would be an eligible expense under that, but I feel that, if the land bank's gonna utilize it as well, and we're gonna utilize it for land bank properties, there should be a shared cost.
Aaron will negotiate firmly with himself.
Any other questions? Do you need us to take an action on this, or?
If the board could make a motion to approve us to move forward with negotiating a contract for the software.
Certainly. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mindy. Appreciate your
Thank you.
research on this. Sometimes not a difficult, not an easy task to
Right.
discern what's the best. So appreciate that. And then we've got management agreement between the Redevelopment Authority and the Erie Land Banks.
All right, so as surprising as it is, we are coming up December 31st, will be 5 years since we entered into our management agreement and the Erie Land Bank began operation. So we have to renew our agreement, so the Redevelopment Authority meeting is this week. It is in front of you for your review and approval to enter into this agreement, and then I will put it in front of the Land Bank next week for that board to agree to enter into the agreement with the Redevelopment Authority. So it's basically a yearly contract set to renew every year for the next 5 years, unless either party were to decide to cancel the contract. with 90 days' notice. So it just allows for the authority to provide staffing and resources to the land bank for reimbursement from the land bank for said activities.
Any substantial changes from the prior agreement?
No substantial changes. I think I just made a couple little tweaks for clerical purposes, but everything else remains the same. You know, like I said, the authority appoints staff is tasked with appointing an executive director to the land bank and then staffing it accordingly to fulfill its mission.
And just on compensation, how, it's just reimbursement as to what the authority bills the land bank?
Yes, the authority bills the land bank based upon the hours that staff spends doing land bank activities based upon our biweekly timesheets. And then all other associated costs, legal, clerical, administrative, supplies, everything such as that.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Election to fill vice chair.
All right, so with the resignation of Ms. Graham, it leaves the vice chair position unfilled, and our annual meeting is in August of 2023, so we need to fill the vacancy of the vice chair. Currently, as you aware, Chuck is the chairman, Kevin is the secretary, Ethan is the treasurer, and Jay is the assistant secretary treasurer, and Aaron is
Unassigned.
unassigned.
Affiliated.
So,
Motion,
Sounds like you're being volunteer.
appointment of Erin.
Okay. I can read a
As
room.
the
Okay.
vice chair.
Second?
Do you need any help with your campaign?
I was going to make yard signs, but I guess, yeah, it's fine.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstains? Hearing none. Congratulations.
Thank you.
the shortest run for office.
Didn't even have to resort to name calling.
And we thank you for the clean campaign. Next is, of course, the legal services contract.
All right, so,
Do you need me to step out?
I don't think.
Thank you
So
for asking, Will.
the authority requires the services of legal counsel for our condemnation activities. On November 17th, the authority advertised and distributed requests for proposals to 4 law firms, as well as being advertised in the Times News. The authority received proposals from 1 firm, Marsh Goff. Upon review of the submitted proposal and consideration, the executive director has recommended a 2-year contract be awarded to Marsh Goff attorneys. So that is my recommendation, that we continue and enter into a contract with Marsh and Jean for continued work through 2024 with the attached fee proposal on the front, or it will be attached to the.
Can you
Any
wrap up those 3 cases?
I was probably holding on to those to.
That's right.
Drag those babies out.
Earn your $17.50.
There should be an asterisk next to
I think we're down under 6, I hope, at least for your sake.
Any substantial changes for fees from last year or the previous contract? Or?
No, we did add, the previous contract didn't have litigation services,
Okay.
general services, or title and closing services. Since those were, the title and closing services most of the time were handled by the executive director at that time. So we've added those because since taking this position, Marsh has handled all of those activities and preparing the deeds and taking care of those closings. So we needed to add those in so that compensation can be provided for that. So that's the biggest change to this year's contract.
Okay. So we had proper advertising. We have one response. The fees seem reasonable to me. Mr. Alverstadt, you're in the business. Fees are reasonable to you?
Fees are reasonable, the work product has been top-notch,
Absolutely.
so
All
I'd be
right.
happy to move the approval.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody abstain or, no? Okay, very good. Thank you. Invite Ms. Back in, I'm sorry. Back in the room. Perfect. And now for audit services, and I saw that there was a proposal at our
Yep,
place.
so there's a resolution for audit services. The authority issued a request for proposal for audit services on November 17th as well. We had also put this out for RFP back in September and received no responses to that, so that's why it went back out. I had sent it out to several auditing firms. We did receive a couple thanks, but we are overwhelmed with work, so we did receive one proposal in this last one from Felix Glucker, who did do our audit for the last 4 years. They have done fairly well. This past year, they were a little non-responsive to a lot of April's questions and concerns during the audit period, given that she was new and had a lot of questions. They did provide it to us late this year. Amy Evans, who was our on-site auditor, did say that it was because they were having a hard time with staffing issues. So we are going to, if the board accepts this resolution, April has asked that we review that contract and make some changes to that. I know I had talked, we're going to put a must be received by June 30th with some kind of liquidated damage for not providing it to us, along with there's a couple other things that we are going to change in that contract just to protect the authority and allow us to get the service that we need. So.
And this is a 2-year proposal, I see.
Yes, 2 years.
With a small escalator for the second year.
Yeah. 10,000 for the first year and 10,500 for the second year, with additional services as outlined above if needed.
And my comment was I was disappointed last year when they were absent during the presentation. And in my world, the audit is really the board's responsibility to hear directly from the auditor and not through the staff. I mean, I think that's so I would make sure that we insist upon that as well. So regardless of how that happens, if it's by video, by carrier pigeon or whatever, I think the board needs to hear directly from the auditor. And I'm also, I just accustomed to that. I think it's good practice.
All right, we will make sure that is added into the contract as well.
And I saw the June 30th date, which is good. So we would consider the audit at our July meeting then.
Yes, that would be the plan.
Let's put that on your calendar. It's never too early to put an audit meeting on your calendar. Ian, since this is your area of expertise, did you have any comments? Or?
Well, the fee is, in line. Do they do any other kind of auditor assurance or any other kind of work for the city or county, do we know?
I see them a lot.
Say that?
Okay.
I didn't want to provide, we provided a couple copies, so their recent experience: Perseus House, Harbor Creek School District, Iroquois School District, Erie City Water Authority. And so was their recent single audit experiences outside of ours. I'm sure there's more, but those are the 4 that they provided.
Out of curiosity, did we call any of the references?
No,
Wouldn't
I
hold
did
this
not.
up for that, but just curious.
No. I mean, I know when they came on 4 years ago, it was a breath of fresh air. I remember their first year in the office. I mean, they asked a lot of questions. They went through a lot of things. And they had provided us an excellent product. This year was just, I think, a different year for them.
Yeah.
Who is, did you say Amy Evans is our?
Yes.
Oh, they got Natalie.
And I don't have any recent experience with the firm. I did when Buzz Felix was there, but that was,
I mean, Buzz has slowed down a lot, and I think Jim Gleckler has as well.
Yeah.
So it's a new generation
Yeah.
of folks.
so I can't add anything.
But based on the number of
Responses. Well, and we know that after a couple of years, there's a bit of a groove going, so I think that this year will go better, but just because of the experience, and we know how to prepare work papers and kind of.
Right, and even within the authority, I mean, we were transitioning through
Sure.
multiple finance directors, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and so there was a lot of just, new, and I think everybody was just trying to get up to speed on stuff, so we may not have provided stuff as efficiently as we probably could have and should have, which may have delayed that, but I feel going into 2023, I think, given that the staff has been on board for a period of time, QuickBooks has been reviewed and updated, I think we can provide the information a lot more effectively this year.
So, maybe around April, we'll ask for a status report from the auditing firm, just make sure we're on the schedule. And just, it's okay. Check it.
Okay.
Blame it on me. All right, so we have a proposal. Is there a motion to accept the proposal as presented?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? We're good?
Nothing more?
Okay, just want to make sure. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or nays? Or abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. And then finally, we have fiscal consulting services.
All right, so we RFP'd for fiscal consulting services twice. We received 0 responses both times. So I'm in the process of, and April's going to start looking, we've got to try to identify and reach out and see if we can find anyone who would be interested in providing that service to the authority and try to go that route.
Okay.
Since we,
Can you remind me again, kind of the nature of this engagement?
so given that, the authority's finance position has been almost a revolving door every 18 to 24 months over the last 12 years, I had felt that it was probably in the best interest of the authority that we had somebody come in and look at what we've been doing, how we've been doing it, and maybe provide us some insight that, could help the new director of finance.
Yes.
And I remember, I'd asked the board back
Okay.
early on, like in April and May, when April just started, because as somebody new coming on, you're at the mercy of who trained you when you were leaving, but necessarily, was everything they've been telling you the way it should have been done or the best practice for that situation. So it's more for somebody, for April to rely on and bounce things off of and get some guidance for some of the stuff that may not be as familiar, to make sure that the authority is doing what we should be doing and complying the way we should be complying. I had reached out to the Alliance for Nonprofits. They had provided us a proposal back in, I believe it was June. I had asked them to provide a response to the proposal. Both times I got no response, so I'm going to reach out to them again and see if there was a reason why they don't want to provide us a proposal, but we're also going to look at other companies as well.
Well, I can see there's an overall shortage of accounting folks in this world. I think there just is. So that's, I'm not sure why. It is, apparently that's not the profession folks are going into, which is regrettable because it's kind of affecting a number of organizations I'm associated with.
It's less flashy than it used to be,
Yeah.
and that's saying something.
You need to upgrade your pocket protectors or
I
something.
don't- When was that flash? Accounting. My dad was an accountant, I don't remember that.
But yeah,
Plaid shorts and black socks, that kind of.
it's a universal conversation that folks have, so it's not entirely surprising to me. Apparently everybody wants to be an attorney these days, but I just,
That's losing its.
it feels well, so.
Flashiness.
So, but yeah, so
Radiologist.
Oh,
That's it.
that's the life.
that's the,
You don't have to talk to anybody.
Just look at like a radiograph on the beaches of Hawaii. It's like, yep, that's something.
that's
Yeah.
it. No problem.
I would double check by that guy in India. Click.
Yeah, and I used to know some freelance accountants and bookkeepers and so on. Even those folks are at capacity, and
Yeah.
everybody's getting geared up for tax season, of course, and is there. So keep at it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe,
Certainly will.
I mean, if you put in best practice auditor or something, you might attract a different group of people than somebody that you just make it sound like you want them on call. Because their issue is going to be, I don't know anything about your organization,
Yeah.
and how can I answer your questions? But if you make it sound like maybe it's a shorter term engagement, just to review our practices, to make sure that we are following best practices, and then you can hook them with, can I call you?
Okay, good. Yeah, I can make those, try to look at some changes to that.
I guess maybe some housing consultants I could probably still reach out to and see who's in their book of business, and because sometimes you come as a group, you're the consultant that's hired by the unit of government, but you need to bring in your financial people, and so I can do that.
Okay, yeah, I know last week at the Homes Within Reach, I talked to a couple people
Yeah.
who, and got some, one doesn't use a consultant, the other one does, so I have a name to reach out to see if maybe they could provide some guidance to us, but we'll see.
You could talk to Kathy Rosden.
Yes.
They may have contacts or whatever in the industry as a result of what they do.
And she was the one who recommended the Alliance for Nonprofits, and like I said, they had provided us a proposal, but, given the cost of it, I wanted to put it under the RFP for procurement purposes, but at this point, we could certainly enter into an agreement, for a fee for service.
But I think you have our support for engaging, because you're exactly right. I mean, there are more technical questions. There's a lot of reasons to keep a professional engaged on that level. So I think we'll get them.
I'll keep you updated.
And I'll see what I can, if I have referrals for you. So that's good.
Thanks.
All right. Is there any other business?
That's all I have.
Any announcements?
Our January meeting is the second Monday at 3 p.m. so that we don't incur any overtime costs for security.
Oh, is that really the reason?
Yes. Yes. Every minute we're past 4:30 and security has to keep City Hall open, we have to incur that cost.
And the land bank, which will fall on the King holiday, is
The following Monday, the 20th.
okay. The fourth Monday.
So authority is the second Monday at 3 p.m. Land banks are the third Monday, with the exception of January, which falls on the fourth Monday
That's perfect.
because of MLK Day.
Any chance somebody could just send us calendar invites
Yeah.
for the year?
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you did an Outlook invite, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, we can do that.
I would much appreciate it.
Good. All right. Well, I guess we adjourn to our Christmas party then, right?
Correct. It was so nice of the Marsh firm to sponsor that.
I don't know. The Ox firm seems